the few, the proud that stuck around for the afternoon session. So thank you very much for that. Wow, I had the opportunity to see the last two panels, and I was taking notes feverishly. I can't imagine you could be anywhere and get better quotes than we got today here in this room, right? It was pretty great. So I want to take that theme that has been on the panels, hey, and carry it forward. I see so many people I love in this room. I saw a colleague of mine at Studer Group, one of my favorite people here earlier today, and see so many familiar faces. So I want to take the theme of what this panel discussion has been, which to me just felt like a conversation. People just sitting around sharing their ideas, and kind of make that the closing part of this leadership conference. I kept that slide up because the little heart on there is about the extent of what I want to do for Valentine's Day. So let's enjoy that together if we can, and talk about it in terms of how do you really find the things that you love to do, and then when you find that, do you do it? That's really kind of what I want to leave you with today. So as I thought about that in terms of how we would talk today, to me, I immediately gravitated to, well, why do we do what we do? And this is where it'd be okay if we want to have a little audience participation from all of you. So if I ask you, why do you do what you do? Are you sitting there kind of thinking that through? Why do you make the choices that you make every day? What is it that maybe if you think about why you are choosing the career you're in at UWF, or why you choose to go to work every day, or why you made so many choices in your life, why did you do that? Somebody said because it's their values. It's to feel valued, to feel important, to feel appreciated, to feel good. The reality is, it's all about that first word in that question. It's about the why. If you spend more time thinking about how you're going to do something or what you want to do instead of really understanding why you're doing it, the journey won't be nearly as rewarding or fulfilling. So if I can, I'm going to just share some stories with you today about the choices I've made, and hopefully you can sit there as you listen to this and you can relate to choices maybe that you've made or that you're considering or that you will make, and you can relate how you want to think about that maybe going forward. Maybe it won't be exactly the same for you because maybe you wouldn't have made the same choices. To do that, I really have to start by kind of making sure you know a little bit about who I am, because what you see in that picture largely defines a lot of choice that I made in my life. Because when I think about why I do what I do, there's nothing in my life that I do that doesn't involve the two people that you see on that screen. Those are my two daughters. And, you know, I think about something that I chose to do very early in my life in terms of going to college. In fact, I had the opportunity, WEAR came to do an interview about this session today, and she was asking me about choices that I'd made and professional decisions I had made. And when I was at, you know, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you always know? Well, when I was a young girl in high school, I was really intrigued by politics, and I knew I wanted to be involved in politics. Now that's kind of weird, right? That you're in 10th grade in high school and you're reading the paper to see what's happening politically, but that was me. And so I knew I wanted to go to college and learn more about politics, and so it was natural for me to seek the governor out and say, hey, I want to intern with you, and to do that, and it was a great experience. But what I really knew I wanted to do was run for public office one day. And it took a lot of courage. By the way, I hope some of you out here will consider doing that one day. It takes a lot of courage to put your name on a ballot and run for office. And it's getting harder and harder to be willing to do that. But for me, as a fairly young woman professional, that was a pretty tough choice to make. And on top of it, I was a new mom. Those two girls were really quite young. It was one of the things I really wanted to do, and so I did it. And I don't really have any regret about that today, but it was also the reason that many years later, several terms later, I made the decision not to seek re-election because it was getting harder to travel and harder to be away when the legislature was in session and those girls were at home. So let me kind of continue that for you if I can in terms of my own personal journey. Let me tell you a little bit about Lindsay and Kelsey because I want to share with you the story about my decision to go to work at the Studer Group and to pursue health care. To know them, Kelsey, by the way, is the blonde. She's the youngest. Yesterday was her birthday. Lindsay's my oldest. She's on the end. And they look really different, don't they? I have a blonde, I have a brunette. One's really tall, one's a little shorter. So I want you to know how really different they are because it's not really their physical attributes that make them different. So I do what most moms do when you really want to understand how would you tell someone about your kids. I went to Facebook. I don't recommend it for you people out there that really want to know what some people are doing because some things are better left unknown. But I went there and I found this picture of Lindsay, and that describes Lindsay. She's always been compliant. She loves to read. She loves to study. That's kind of who she is. And I found that picture of Kelsey, and that's really who she is. She's always thinking outside the box. She's always pushing the envelope. She's always challenging me in ways I never could imagine. It's just kind of fun to let you know that they're so different. But my story about the Studer Group revolves around why I went into public office in the first place, why I chose to get involved in Impact 100, was because at the core of me, it goes back to that first question I asked you. Why do you do what you do? I just wanted to make a difference. I just wanted to find a way to make a difference. And so when Quint Studer approached me about joining the Studer Group, I had only recently accepted another job. I wasn't interested in going to work at the Studer Group, even though I'd heard wonderful things about the company from everyone I spoke to. The time wasn't right. Now that I know Quint so well, I think the fact that I even thought to tell him no is pretty funny. But I did say no until I got to learn more about the company. And when I did, and I realized at the core of what the Studer Group was all about, it was about finding a way to make the work we do in healthcare be purposeful, to really make a difference. I'd only been with the organization a few months when Kelsey, as you can see, who loves to ride horses, she was in high school. We'd spend a lot of our weekends on the road traveling to horse shows, went to one, and I had an experience to appreciate why being in healthcare really does make a difference. Kelsey does. Anybody here familiar with horses? You know much about them? I knew at the time that they were expensive. That's pretty much what I knew. But Kelsey did something called eventing. So eventing's kind of three parts of riding. The first part is the technical part. The second part is what you see a picture of here, where you get on a horse and you go in a really large area and you jump natural jumps or parts of a course, maybe going through a stream or up an embankment and over a tree. And the third part of it was stadium jumping, where in an arena you would take jumps. Now, if she were here and seeing this presentation, she would probably be upset because those aren't the best pictures she has of this, but it helps to make my point. I was with her at a horse show, and I was watching her jump, and she fell on a jump. And to cut the story short, because Sherry's told me I'm the closing comments, and you all have to get out of here, I had the opportunity to wait for the ambulance to come and get Kelsey and put her in the ambulance to take her to the hospital. Now, I was in an area, I didn't know really where we were. It felt like in the middle of nowhere, if you wanted to ask me. But we were traveling to a hospital for her to get care. And at that moment, I'd only been a leader at Studer Group for several months, but I knew whatever hospital we were going to, there was one thing I wanted. What was that? What do you think I wanted as a mom? I wanted the very best care that we could get. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew that the second that we pulled up to that hospital, I wanted every nurse, every physician, every individual that was going to be dealing with my daughter to be the best healthcare professional they could be. But I wanted something more. I wanted them to care. Because in that instance, that was my daughter. And at that point, I realized what a wonderful opportunity I had to make a difference in healthcare. And I wouldn't be, is Susan Davis still here? I wouldn't be the clinician at the bedside. So I'm so envious of those people who are right at the bedside providing care. But I would have the opportunity to have an impact in healthcare if I chose to make a difference. And so for me, why I do what I do took on a whole new meaning. This is what we call the healthcare flywheel. Is Lisa Daly still here? Lisa, if I ask you to describe the healthcare flywheel, I'm sure you could, right? There's so much about this flywheel that also resonates to our personal life. And Brian mentioned the book From Good to Great. This is really based on that book, From Good to Great. At the center of the flywheel is purpose, worthwhile work, and making a difference. The key is, how do we find our passion and take with that very prescriptive actions in order to see the outcomes we seek? That only makes us more passionate to want to make a difference. So if you think about this flywheel in your own life, what is your passion? Do you have purpose, worthwhile work, and making a difference every day? Who are you in this room? You have to ask yourself if you think about that in terms of your passion. So the reality is, we're daughters, we're granddaughters, we're aunts, we're sisters, maybe we're mothers, maybe we're wives, maybe we're girlfriends, but you're touching other people's lives. We are also bosses, maybe colleagues. We're homemakers, maybe. Maybe we're not working. Maybe that's not our choice. Volunteers, mentors. But we're more. How about these things? I promise you I was a chauffeur, right? I was a therapist. I was a banker, a professional mover, a pet groomer. We're all these things. Did anybody here see WEAR this morning? Can I get some water? Do you mind bringing me up? Anybody see it? You missed my moment of fame this morning. One of the things I talked about is there comes a point in our life that we have work and we have life. And there are times that work will require more of us. And there are other times that life will demand more of us. The key is, how do we find a way when we're seeking to make a difference to not try to balance those things, but to find the blend of those things? It's really interesting. I had an occasion, I had some family in town, and I said, I'm going to take today off. I'm going to go to the beach and spend the day with my family. I left the office, I went, I got on my swimsuit, I joined my family, and I had just sat down on the beach when I got a call about some emergency that was happening at work. And it was the kind of emergency that I didn't have a choice. Let's say I really had to hunker down. I laughed when we found this picture online because I imagined that's what I look like. Papers were flying, I'm on a phone, my family's out on the beach, and I was dealing with an issue. It had to be done. The beauty is, a couple of weeks ago, in the middle of a lot going on at Studer Group, I wanted to take the day off to be with my family because my girls had a couple of days off and we wanted to go skiing. And on that day, I was actually at work. I really was. I was at work. I said, I can go to work today and get a lot of things done, but I'm going to mix into that some fun with my family too, because I really need to do this. So the point is, if we really think about which is it, work or life, if you're trying to balance those things, you're really going to be disappointed. If you really focus all your time on how can I find balance between my work and between my life, it's going to be a constant frustration. So don't try to balance it. Don't be so focused on balancing your life. Instead, be comfortable with blending your life, finding all of those things and letting all those wonderful things weave into your life and finding the gratitude for all of those things. It's okay. It's okay for your life to sometimes demand more of you than work. And it's okay if sometimes your work has to take a little more out of you too. We did a study in healthcare a few years ago of women in healthcare. We really wanted to understand this study. So we actually got a PhD researcher to help us with the study. It had about 112 questions. Took about 20 minutes for folks to go online and take that survey. And we had about 8,000 women choose to take this survey. We were quite pleased with the results of the survey. And the women who took the survey, it was a good cross-representation. So we had women in leadership, we had frontline leaders, we had leaders in administrative roles and clinical roles take the survey. And the survey itself, by the way, is fascinating, but I just want to share a couple of things with you here today. What we found from the survey, and by the way, I don't think anybody's going to go, wow, this is shocking to me, is that women every week, for many women every day, experience a conflict between work life and their personal life. I think what was shocking to me, though, was the statistic of how often women take the time to really care for themselves, to really take personal time for what they need to be better. And one of the panelists said it here today, we have to find the time for ourselves, because if we are not taking care of ourselves, we can't be the best that we can be for other people. So we have to find the time to do that. What are you focusing on? Sorry, I just love that video. I have to work it in every time. Because it's so true. Do you ever just sit back and think about what you're doing in the course of a day and where you're focusing all your time and all your attention only to realize it was on something that really didn't matter? Think about why you do what you do and take the time to focus on the things that matter. I think I jumped ahead in this video. I wanted to be sure and share with you that we have 4 resources that are available to us. 4 resources that we can draw upon. We can draw upon our physical energy, our bodies, and by the way, I have to tell you, I was highly motivated after watching the interview to get back to the gym the other day. We got to take time to take care of ourselves, to find time for exercise and keeping ourselves healthy. Our emotional energy, our feelings, the way we feel about things that are happening to us, our mental energy, taking the time to learn, to seek professional development, to be the best leaders that we can be. If we are in a role that we want to aspire to be better at, to seek the learning to be the best we can be in that role. But we also have to take the time to have spiritual energy as well. And I want you to think, if these are the resources, the assets that we have available to us, and you think about the choices that you're making and where you're spending your time, are you spending your resources on the things that you care about the most? Or are you shifting your assets and resources to the things that don't matter? I have a favorite quote at Studer Group. I tell the folks that work with me all the time, work smarter, not harder. But we also want to make sure that you're focusing on the things that you love, because the things that you're passionate about are the things that you will do best. This is interesting to me that there was a study done on how we spend our time. And for people who have a tendency to have high energy and high focus, if you have any extra time available, you are most likely to spend that time on the thing that will produce the most tangible result. And for many of us, that is our work. But if you have limited assets and resources, is that really where you want to be spending your time to get the outcome you want to achieve? These videos are going fast today.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is there?
There's nothing left to do except put one foot in front of the other and walk up the escalator. You know, it's kind of funny, but it really is so true. Sometimes it's just a matter of making a choice that we want to do something different, that we want to take a step forward. We want to connect to what it is that inspires us to want to be better. There's been a lot of discussion here today about the choices that we as women have and the choices that we will make. When it first came out, did all of you hear about the book Lean In, right? It was the rage. Everyone was talking about the book Lean In, and I was thinking about it when Susan and the panel was up here. My favorite thing about Lean In, the one takeaway that I have that I always say to the women that I mentor, is that you do have to take advantage of, and I think this is the point you were making too, you do have to take advantage of every opportunity that you have today. You can't get too far ahead of yourself thinking about what may be. Well, I'm not going to choose to start a family today because it's just not the right time. Or I'm not going to take that job today because I want to start a family 3 years from now. I would really encourage you to connect to what you want to do. Connect to where your heart is. Connect to what motivates you to want to be the best person that you can be. And if I think about that first slide, that's not just one thing. That's a multitude of things. If you want to be a better mother, then take time to do the things that require you to spend time with and be present in the lives of your children. If you want to be a better leader at work, take time to acknowledge and recognize and appreciate the people who work with you, to give them the opportunity to have professional development, to be better leaders themselves. You have to set that course of what you want in order to achieve it. And sometimes when the escalator stops, because things got tough. You just have to take a step forward. We love this quote at Studer Group, that vision without execution is just hallucination. You can have a great vision, folks, but if you don't take the time to execute that vision, you will achieve nothing and get nowhere. So you have to think about actually putting into motion that which you want in order to realize success. There are a lot of things in your life that you can choose to do, but the things that will be most rewarding to you are the things that connect to your heart. So make sure you find those things. Find the things that you care most about and do those things. I'll leave you with my favorite books, and I want to actually read something from one of them to you here today. By the way, if you don't subscribe to or get the Harvard Business Review, I would really highly recommend it. There are articles from years ago that we still refer to and read that bring great value to us that I think you would enjoy. I put some fun books on there too that I think are easy reads, great fun. The book that I would tell you most to read relates to what we kind of wanted to leave you here with today when you left here, which is about really finding your passion and connecting to your purpose. And that is a book called How Will You Measure Your Life? And this book is written by a Harvard business professor who ended up taking the last lecture, and by the way, that's a good book too if you guys have never read the last lecture. But it's about a professor who spent the last class talking to his Harvard business students about when it was all said and done and you're finished with your career, how would you measure the success of your career and of your life? And he challenged them that many of you will leave here and you will not think that you will end up in prison one day. And yet some of you will. Because you'll be forced to make a decision and a choice, and you'll make the wrong one. If you think now about how you want to measure success in your life, and the choices you make and the things you do today define that, then in fact you will feel that you have had a successful life. There's a quote at the start of this book that I love by Steve Jobs. And I thought about this book a couple of weeks ago when I got a call on that ski trip that I mentioned from one of our coaches. My daughters were sleeping. It was early in the morning there, and he called me and he said, Debbie, I need to talk to you about my coaching career at Studer Group. He said, I've missed a couple of site visits. I know you guys have been aware of that. I've just gotten back from the doctor last night, and I found out that I have 40 lesions on my liver. And I don't know what my life will look like in the next year. And we proceeded to talk about that. And we cried together and prayed together and thought about what his life would be like. And he said to me, they're telling me that they think the cancer that I have is the same cancer that Steve Jobs had. And so we talked about that, and I immediately remembered the book, How Will You Measure Your Life? And the quote from Steve Jobs in the front of this book, it says, the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, then you should keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know it when you find it. It's okay if you're sitting here and you're well into your career and you need to keep looking. The key is you should keep looking. And it's okay if you're sitting here and you are a student at this university and you are getting ready to get started. And maybe you're unsure. you should keep looking. Life is way too short not to do what you love. So find what you love to do and go do it. And you can find a balance of all those things. I just wanted to make a difference. And there was a time that I thought the only way I could make a difference was to run for public office and to get elected, because that would be so meaningful. And it was. Until I founded Impact 100 with a group of women. And I found out that yes, I could get a lot of money for the community and do a lot of great things by being elected to public office. But man, did it feel good to be involved in a grassroots effort in a community where just everyday women were deciding they wanted to get together and pool their resources and make a difference for nonprofits in a community. Man, did that feel good. And I had the opportunity to be interviewed for a book several years ago called Women and Wealth. And they wanted to talk to me about the experiences that I'd had both as a legislator and as someone who had been involved in philanthropy as I had. And for the first time, I was being asked the question, which did you find the most rewarding? And I loved both of those things. But at the end of the day, I think I'd have to answer I loved Impact, because I'm seeing every day how it's changing women and changing the community in such a significant way. I saw women who had never been involved in making decisions about philanthropy, making those decisions and not their husbands. I saw women who were very young, saving money for years to donate $1,000, because $1,000 is a lot of money, feeling the impact of giving that money and being involved in something that made a difference. So it doesn't matter how you find what you love, it's that you take the time to seek it out and find it. And it's never too late. It's never too late to find what you love and do what you love. So my request of you, having spent a wonderful day, I'm sure, hearing a lot of women who are very inspiring, share with you all the opportunities that you have before you, is to seize them. And when you do, connect both to the heart and to the mind. Thank you very much.